unalived him for eating their Little Debbie cakes. The tragic case of 7-year-old Troy Kohler. Trigger warning. Troy was born in 2015 in Texas, and this poor baby had it rough from day one. Because he was born to a drug-addicted mother, he also suffered from drug withdrawal as a baby. They both tested positive for drugs, and because she wasn't properly feeding him, he was severely underweight. So Troy was taken away from his mother and placed into foster care where things would only get worse for him. Troy suffered a lot of mistreatment and abuse at the hands of his foster parents, but in 2019, he was adopted by a new couple named Tiffany and Jermaine Thomas. But sadly, things would not get any better for him. Soon after moving in with Tiffany and Jermaine, Troy suffered mysterious injuries. He always had some kind of bruise, cut, or scrape that no one could explain. In late 2021, someone reported that Troy had a black eye, but his parents told CPS that Troy had fallen off his bed and hit his face on the nightstand. In January of 2022, CPS received a report that Troy had bruises around his eyes. When they interviewed Troy, he said that he was playing with his cousin, and his cousin accidentally hit him in the face with a toy. But when CPS spoke with his parents, his father Jermaine told a different story. He claimed that Troy's cousin threw a football and accidentally hit Troy in the face. The problem was, Troy's injuries were not consistent with either of their stories, and Troy could not give specific details about this cousin or what toys they were playing with. Someone else called CPS and reported that Troy had burn marks on his body, but when CPS questioned his parents, they claimed he got those burn marks back in 2020 at a family gathering. The caseworker also noted that Troy was flinching during his interactions with CPS investigators. March 31st, 2022, Troy's school reported bruises on his face. Investigators even found a red mark covering half of his eyelid, along with a fingernail imprint on the back of his neck. Troy gave investigators different explanations, saying that he had fallen on the concrete after his cousin had pushed him down. But again, Troy's parents gave CPS a totally different story, claiming he got these injuries while wrestling with his cousin. Why didn't the caseworker interview the cousin? They probably didn't even exist or were never around, but CPS wouldn't know because they didn't find them. School staff also told CPS that Troy asked to not bring home his laptop because his father had threatened to break it several times and he didn't want it to get messed up. School staff described Troy as anxious, antsy, skittish. He always flinched anytime you came around him. Several teachers reported that he was losing weight. He was always covered in some type of bruise, scratch, or injury that he could never explain, and if he did try to explain it, the story never matched the injury. The teacher said he got to where he was even too afraid to participate, like raising his hand, grabbing food, talking with other children, answering the teacher, or going to the bathroom. He was just scared. Now, the caseworkers did not take these allegations seriously, and they didn't think he was in danger. The safety assessment from January's investigation was determined as low risk. The second investigation, which was closed in May, bumped the risk assessment up to moderate, and they still left him in their care. CPS in Texas has a long history of not protecting children. They have a horrible reputation. July 2022, 5:19 a.m., the Harris County Sheriff's Office was dispatched out to the home of Tiffany and Jermaine concerning a missing child. Now, Jermaine and Tiffany both claimed that Troy was missing. He'd either been kidnapped or he ran away from their home, but the police got a hold of the neighbor's security footage, and that proved that they were both lying because Troy was seen playing in the yard and going back inside of that house. He never left that house alive. Jermaine claimed he hadn't seen Troy since the day before, and Tiffany claimed she'd seen him right before bedtime before she left the house. Police launched a search of the home using dogs and drones, but that search was soon called off when they found Troy's body in the most unlikely of places. They found him in the couple's washing machine that was located in the garage. Jermaine snatched Troy's body out of the washing machine, and police instructed him to lay him on the floor so they could perform CPR. Troy's arms were still warm, but his torso was cold as ice. But they could tell the wash machine had not been used because there was blood in the bottom of the tub that was still there. There had been no water ran through it. The police noted there was blood in his nose and around his nostrils, a large bump on his forehead just over his right eye. His clothing was damp, and he smelled of urine. It was so strong. Troy's pants were pulled down to his ankles, and there was blood and big bruises all over his upper thighs and all down his legs. They also seen bruising on his arms, face, neck, and chest. He was covered in bruises. The paramedics arrived soon after, but sadly it was too late, and Troy was pronounced dead at 7:22 a.m. Blood spatter was found in the kitchen and on a cardboard box, but that DNA analysis is still pending as of today. So then Tiffany and Jermaine alleged that maybe Jermaine climbed into the washing machine, cut it on, and accidentally drowned. But the police contacted the washer manufacturer and learned that this specific washer cannot be started unless the lid is closed and locked. So if Troy climbed on the inside and shut the lid, someone would have had to have been on the outside to press the start button. There's no way possible that Troy could have done this from inside the washing machine. But the police knew the washer had not been started because when they found Troy's body, there was blood in the bottom of the tub. There was no presence of any water at all. Police also thought it was weird that the couple quickly moved out of that home after Troy's body was found, even though they had just purchased that home. Trigger warning, we're going to talk about Troy's autopsy. The medical examiner concluded that Troy had died from asphyxiation and possible drowning. There was watery mucus found in his sinus cavity. Troy had many injuries that were old and new and were in various stages of healing. He also suffered from both remote and new blunt force trauma. So the medical examiner ruled Troy's death as a homicide. Now, the couple were both brought in for a police interview, but they both told so many lies that it contradicted what they had told police earlier at the house. But in Jermaine's second interview with the police, he now claimed that on July 24th, he was disciplining Troy by hitting him on the butt, and because Troy was jumping around, he accidentally hit him in the back. We think Jermaine told the police that because he knew they were going to get the autopsy results back and see that Troy had been beaten. But even that story was not consistent with Troy's many serious injuries. Then the police learned about all their CPS investigations and knew that some kind of abuse was going on in this home. Then the police took their phone, and that was where they found very alarming text messages between the two. Tiffany had texted Jermaine that Troy only told her the truth about eating her oatmeal pies after she threatened to put him in the stove and cook him. Jermaine told Tiffany because Troy had eaten his donut sticks, he was going to end up unaliving him and hanging him from a tree. The texts go on and on about how they would get angry every time he tried to eat or drink anything, and then they would beat him for it. Gee, did you ever stop and think that maybe he's taking food because you're starving him and he's getting hungry? It's called survival. It's human instinct to eat. But they didn't miss a meal, that's for damn sure. July 7th, Tiffany tells Jermaine, F that, I'm not doing crap for his birthday. I'm so sick of this boy, I'm really tired of him. I don't want him in this house no more. Well, just imagine how he felt having to live with you two. Why did you even adopt him? And they also had text messages about how much they hated him because he liked playing their video games. Well, excuse him, he's 7. Finally, July 5th, just 3 days before Troy was found dead in the washing machine, Tiffany tells Jermaine, this boy got life effed up. Why did I come out of the bathroom from taking my shower and his funky ass in the living room watching TV? Because God forbid he looked at the TV for 1 second. He wasn't allowed to watch TV because he was always grounded. They were always making up new reasons to abuse him. And they would get so angry anytime someone gave him attention or a compliment, like when the teachers gave him a prize at school, it pissed them off so much because they felt like he didn't deserve it. So finally, on November 15th, 2022, 3 months after his body was found, Tiffany and Jermaine were arrested. Jermaine was charged with capital homicide, and Tiffany was only charged with 1 count of injury to a child. The couple is being held at Harris County Jail. Jermaine is currently being held on a $2 million bond, while Tiffany is being held on a $150,000 bond. They haven't been to trial yet, but let's hope she doesn't walk free like so many other women do. I feel so bad for his teachers who tried their best to save him. Look at his face. How could CPS leave him in any home looking like that? It makes me so angry because every single one of these kids could have been saved. This could have been prevented had CPS done their damn job. Now let's take a moment to remember 7-year-old Troy. Troy is described as full of personality, always smiling, always happy, full of excitement, ready to go on his next adventure. He loved cheese pizza, cartoons, playing with toys, playing video games. Troy's teachers and classmates absolutely adored him. His teachers said he was a great student. He worked really hard. He got along with everyone. He was very sweet and always kind and loved to play. Troy was so loving, strong, and brave. No matter what he went through at the foster home or with his adoptive parents, he loved everyone around him and always put his best foot forward.